Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in and happy Monday to you as we kick off July 4th week. President Trump gave Congress a July 4th deadline to deliver his big, beautiful bill to his desk for signing. That's Friday, of course. Can they do it? We have an update on where we stand as the U.S. Senate worked over the weekend. The man believed to be responsible for 2 deaths and other injuries in an Idaho shooting yesterday was found dead with his gun last night. We have the latest details on that as well. And New York City's presumptive Democrat nominee for mayor stirred up a storm again. The Democratic Socialist is pushing a proposal to overhaul the city's property tax system by raising taxes in what he calls richer, whiter neighborhoods. Can you imagine a Republican proposing to tax richer black neighborhoods, possibly? Also, South Carolina Representative John McCravy joins us to talk about inter-party politics and some of the recent U.S. Supreme Court cases that directly affect South Carolina.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
The Senate version of President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill that passed a key procedural vote late on Saturday. Look, the U.S. senators worked overtime over the weekend. Now, that's not necessarily saying that they deserve to be paid overtime, but hey, look, you got to get the job done. 2 Republican senators, Tom Tillis and Rand Paul, were the lone GOP holdouts in the 51-49 vote after caucus leadership spent literally hours rallying support for the multi-trillion-dollar bill. Now, it shouldn't be this hard, folks, should it? The current version of the bill, which Senate lawmakers got their first look at Friday night, clocked in at 940 pages and is largely in line with what the House narrowly approved back in May. The Senate is expected to make a final vote on its version of the bill maybe sometime today. Both versions will make Trump's 2017 tax cuts permanent. They'll reduce taxes on tips and overtime, increase border security funding, and slash green energy tax credits passed during the Biden administration, including the $7,500 credit for buying Teslas and other EVs. But the marquee legislation will require the Senate and House to reconcile their versions before the bill can be fully approved and go to President Trump for his signature. Here are the big differences between the bills right now. Tax cuts. Both versions of the bill include a number of Trump's promised tax incentives, some $3.8 trillion in tax cuts in all, but differ slightly when it comes to some of the raw numbers. The Senate version would allow Americans to deduct as much as $12,500 for overtime pay, up to $25,000 in tip income through 2028. Reductions that would drop for those making $150,000 or more. The House version did not put limits on the deductions, so we're going to like the House version better. The child tax credit would jump from $2,000 to $2,200 per child under the Senate bill and adjust for inflation after this year. The House version, however, would raise the credit to $2,500 temporarily before lowering it back to $2,000 and adjusting it for inflation. Now, this is what I do not like about these bills sometimes. They give it to you, and then they take it away in a matter of just a few years. Why not, if it's good now, why not pass it permanently? Why not let Americans keep more of their hard-earned money? One of the most significant differences in the Senate bill is a provision to permanently expand the standard deduction. The House version would only see it expanded through 2028. Senate lawmakers also raised a tax break for seniors to $6,000 through 2028, whereas in the House bill, that figure is only $4,000. Now, let's get to raising the debt ceiling. The Senate's version of the bill would raise the U.S. debt limit by $5 trillion, 20% higher than the House's proposal of $4 trillion. The higher the debt ceiling, of course, the longer Congress can go without having yet another politically fraught debate about the national debt and government spending, kicking the can down the road. Senator Rand Paul was one of the no votes in the GOP caucus. If the big, beautiful bill isn't passed, the federal government is set to run out of borrowing authority in August or maybe September. Now, let's talk about some of the other cuts. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, food stamps, or SNAP as it's known, subsidizes food for some 40 million low-income Americans. Both the Senate and House version would cut what the U.S. government spends on the program. The Senate bill would require able-bodied adults to continue working up to age 64, with some exemptions carved out for parents with children under the age of 14. However, states would be limited in how they can waive the requirements. The House version would require adults, including those with children age 6 or older, to work in order to qualify for the benefits. States would also be required to kick in more of the cost to provide food aid. The changes to the program would take effect in 2028. Now, one of the most closely watched provisions of the Big Beautiful Bill Act in the New York City area has been the SALT deductions, which caps the amount of state and local taxes that taxpayers can write off on their federal income tax returns. The amount's currently capped at $10,000. After Trump's 2017 tax cuts, both versions of the bill would boost that to $40,000 for married couples, up to $500,000 per year. However, in the version advanced by the Senate, the cap would increase through 2029, then return to $10,000, while the House version would make the increased cap permanent. Again, give it to you, take it away. I just don't like that. Again, if it's good enough today, why not pass it and be done with it rather than coming back in a few years and taking it away from you? You agree? Text me. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Medicaid, which has been talked about a lot. The left has talked about Medicaid. Oh, Trump's taking Medicaid away from people. They're not going to have their health care. Well, here's what they're going to do. This has been highly contentious. There's been proposed changes to Medicaid, which provides health insurance to low-income, disabled, and elderly Americans. Under the House version, able-bodied, childless adults would be required to work 80 hours per month to qualify. So that's basically 2 weeks out of the month. The Senate bill widens this requirement to include adults with children aged 15 or older. The Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates that the House-passed package will add $2.4 trillion to the U.S. deficit over the next decade. It's still analyzing the expected impact of the Senate version. Kind of hard to pass something like this if you don't know the effect it's going to have, though, right? I mean, it's almost like the Senate is flying blind on some of these things. And on the Medicaid, as Democrats keep pushing back and again claiming that people are going to go without health care, without health benefits, again, the key here is they're going to be cut for able-bodied adults. If you're capable and able to work, you're just simply going to be required to work in order to get benefits rather than sitting on your living room sofa playing video games or watching Netflix and not wanting to work or not working because no one is requiring you to and you're getting all the benefits. It's real simple. Go to work and you'll get the benefits. If you are income qualified, ideally, you'll go to work and you'll make enough money to pay for it yourself. But I get it. I get that some people just aren't able to make enough money. And look, health insurance is very expensive. I understand that. And if you truly don't make enough to feed your family, to pay your rent, in addition to paying your health insurance, I'm okay with you getting some help. But just don't sit at home and expect me to work to pay your benefits if you're able to work too. Right? You agree? Text me, email, joey@joeyhudson.com. And as far as the SALT taxes, or deductions, I guess I should say, I'm not quite sure how I feel about that either, because property taxes in New York State, for example, are a lot more than property taxes are here in the upstate of South Carolina. So this is going to benefit people in these states who have high property taxes, like New York, like Florida. Florida has very high property taxes because they don't have income taxes. But this is going to benefit them at the expense of states like South Carolina, where property taxes are fairly reasonable compared to some of these other states. So I'm not sure that I want to subsidize New York and Florida for their high property taxes at my expense. What about you? Are you in for subsidizing New York, Florida? And there's some other states, too, that have high property taxes. Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. You can leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Joey Hudson here. America is facing a health crisis, and the answer isn't more meds. I lost over 30 pounds on the PhD weight loss plan without Ozempic or any weight loss shots. Don't settle for a lifetime of medication. GLP-1 injections like Ozempic help some people lose weight, but they come with side effects, high cost, and most gain it back when they stop. At PhD Weight Loss, we reveal Big Pharma's big secret. Your body already makes GLP-1, the appetite-fighting hormone. Our program helps your body make it naturally so you'll drop the pounds faster. With the PhD method, no side effects, no long-term risk, no rebound weight gain, just natural, lasting results, all without hunger or cravings. Right now, get a free body scan and personalized metabolic assessment. Discover your body's true potential without a shot. It's free and gives you the keys to your personalized plan. Do like I did and don't trade your health for a quick fix. Call now at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or visit myphdweightloss.com, myphdweightloss.com. Bad situation in Idaho yesterday. 2 people were killed when firefighters responding to a brush fire in western Idaho was suddenly ambushed by gunfire. The burst of gunshots, which lasted for a period of time, it started around 2 p.m. local time yesterday as first responders arrived at the scene of a fire at Canfield Mountain. This is near Coeur d'Alene, according to Kootenai County Sheriff's Office. Officers were actively taking sniper fire, according to officials, as they held a news conference describing the situation later. Sheriff Bob Norris told reporters, we're taking rapid fire. He explained that a high-powered rifle was being used in the ongoing attack, with shots being fired from multiple directions on the mountain, saying that we don't know how many casualties there are. Well, it turns out at least 2 people were killed in this shootout. They are believed, pretty certain that they were fire personnel. We'll probably learn more details today on this. Several others may be injured as civilians were still making their way down the mountain, according to the sheriff. Now, late last night, we learned from officials that a man with a gun was found dead on the mountain where the active shooter situation unfolded. It is believed that the man who was found is the shooter, the sniper, who was responsible for the deaths. Meanwhile, the brush fire raged on as authorities were too busy responding to the shooting incident. Sheriff Norris said it's going to keep burning, can't put any resources on it right now. And they were able to get to fighting the fire last night. The FBI was at the scene providing tactical and operational support. Idaho Governor Brad Little urged the public to avoid the area yesterday and the shelter-in-place was issued by the Canfield Mountain Trailhead in nearby areas. It was dangerous. And look, this is not unusual for a sicko like this to start a fire or create some other type of emergency, call it in, and wait for first responders to show up and then shoot them. Just pick them off. Unfortunately, this has happened a number of times, and I'm afraid it'll happen again now that this has received so much attention, so much news media coverage. It gives some sicko out there an idea. And this is just an example. You know, we often talk about law enforcement, particularly, responding to to crime, robberies, break-ins, active shooters, and they run towards the danger. We don't always give firefighters and EMT the credit that's due, though, because they're in a lot of danger as well. But you just don't hear a lot about it. Firefighters, quite often, and it won't surprise me if we don't eventually learn that the shooter may have been a firefighter, maybe a disgruntled firefighter. But it's not unusual for someone to set a fire, or again, some other type of emergency, call it in, and just literally wait for first responders to show up. So firefighters are often in danger just as much as law enforcement. And I'm not talking about the danger of fighting a fire, but I'm talking about in danger of a situation like this, of a sniper, of being harmed by some sicko. Same thing with EMTs. There have been reports of medical emergencies being created so that EMTs will respond only to be shot. So prayers for the families affected in Idaho and for this area and for all first responders. I always pray for first responders' safety every single day. Also breaking last night, 2 people were shot near the Stonewall Inn in Greenwich Village following the Big Apple's Pride Parade. Now, this Stonewall Inn in Greenwich in New York City is the site of LGBTQ. It's a landmark bar there where and it's given credit as kind of starting the whole LGBTQ movement. One man was in critical condition, according to law enforcement. Another woman shot in the leg and is in stable condition and was transported to a hospital there in New York City. Police responded to a report of shots fired just around the corner from the LGBTQ landmark bar around 10:15 last night. It's not clear if the shooting was targeted, including whether it was potentially a hate crime or how many suspects were involved. I'm sure we'll be learning more about this sometime later today as well. Look, it was a rough weekend from a crime standpoint and some of these shootings. And it just kind of makes you pause to understand that, hey, look, we never know what we're going to be faced with each day. Because these people in Idaho, people in New York, they didn't get up yesterday and think, well, you know, I'm probably going to be shot today. And yet these sick people who have no respect for their own lives, they ruined a lot of families yesterday. A lot of families have started this 4th of July week in a way that they never thought they would. They're going to be having funerals and celebrating loved ones' lives rather than celebrating the 4th of July. And it's just sad to see it happen. But it's a fact of life. You're never promised tomorrow, and you just have to understand that you never know what you're going to be confronted with. Peg and I always pray for the safety of our family and friends every day because of things like this. Whether we like it or not, we got some mean people in our country. sick people. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. Speaking of New York City, I was telling you about the shooting late last night. New York City's a mess. The presumptive Democrat nominee for mayor, have you been following this story? We talked a bit about it on Friday. Zohran Mamdani stirred up a storm again. The Democratic Socialist is pushing a proposal to overhaul the city's property tax system by raising taxes on what he calls richer, whiter neighborhoods. Now, if a Republican were to single out an area based on their income, based on the color of their skin, they would be absolutely roasted. But this guy, he's just telling them up front, hey, all you rich white people, I'm coming after you. I'm going to tax you. It's going to be a little painful for you. He says it's not about race, of course. According to Mamdani, these wealthier areas have been undertaxed for years, he said. He says the policy's goal is to rebalance a system that's long been inequitable, and points out that even Mayor Eric Adams ran on reforming it. His words, it's not driven by race. It's more of an assessment of what neighborhoods are being undertaxed versus overtaxed. So if you've worked hard all your life, if you've been able to purchase a home, then he wants to tax you more on it if you're white. Now, I wonder how he feels about black millionaires, billionaires who happen to own property in New York City as well. If you're black, if you're brown, if you're anything other than white, are you going to be exempt from paying the higher property taxes? Well, as you can imagine, this has touched a nerve. Critics say that he's injecting race and class warfare into an already fragile housing landscape. Billionaire supermarket mogul John Catsimatidis went as far as calling him the Fidel Castro of New York, and he's threatening to pull out his grocery stores out of New York City if Mamdani wins, as he should, because the other thing that he's talking about doing is to take over the grocery stores and have them state-run. So John Catsimatidis, I think he has 20, 30 locations in New York City. This guy would try to put him out of business, try to take over his stores and have the state run them. Can you imagine how that would turn out? Now, Mamdani didn't seem to be fazed at all from the criticism. He shrugged it off, saying he doesn't need support from billionaires to govern. In fact, he went a little bit further, saying flat out that billionaires should not exist. That's a bold thing to say in the city with more billionaires than anywhere else on earth. A lot of billionaires in New York City. They're concentrated there. He argued that the real issue is affordability. With working class New Yorkers leaving for cheaper cities, he says that the tax base is shrinking and something needs to change. His plan, tax the top earners, fund public services, and keep the city livable, he says. But how livable is the city going to be if you literally run some of the wealthy out? I mean, let's use Catsimatidis, for example. If he drives John Catsimatidis out of New York City and he closes his grocery stores, is that going to make the city more livable? Is that going to make the city better? He acknowledges that he'll need state approval for the big tax changes. But he says that his real power is shifting what people believe is possible. He says, take what's considered a non-starter and make it feel inevitable. He also wants to raise corporate taxes, proposing to match New Jersey's top rate, and he insists that it's not anti-business. So here's a guy who's saying that he's going to tax white billionaires, but it's not racist. He's going to tax corporate entities, but he's not anti-business. He says he believes affordable cities benefit everyone, including business owners trying to hire talent. Controversy, of course, followed Mamdani into another segment of the weekend news cycle when he refused 3 different times to denounce the phrase globalize the intifada. Many interpret that as a call to violence, particularly against Jews. Mamdani simply said, it's not language I use, and insisted his focus is on human rights. He said, I don't believe the mayor's role is to police speech. That position, of course, didn't sit very well with Democrat leaders. Look, they don't know what to do with it. The Democrat Party, they're circling the wagons trying to figure out what to do with this guy. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries responded swiftly, saying the phrase is not acceptable, and Mamdani will need to clarify his stance. Mamdani is now heading into a crowded general election. He'll face Mayor Eric Adams, who's running as an independent. He'll face Republican nominee Curtis Sliwa, and possibly former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who may mount an independent bid as well. He lost to the primary to Mamdani, but Cuomo is kind of playing spoiler and saying, "Well, I'm not going home. I'm not going away." The voters really didn't know what they were doing when they rejected me the other day, so I'm going to stay in the race. So you put Eric Adams in there, you put Andrew Cuomo in there, you put Curtis Sliwa in there. Guess what that formula could give you? It could give you a Mayor Mamdani, because these other guys who are somewhat normal will split the vote, and Mamdani could potentially win and become the next mayor of New York City. I mean, it's laughable, but at the same time, it's scary. Mamdani, his key issue is affordability, he said. He's betting that frustration with the city's high cost of living, and it's an expensive city. New York City, if you've been lately, it's very hard to be able to afford what you need in New York City. I get it. But you're not going to improve it by taxing your rich, because guess what they're going to do? They're going to move. They're going to unload their real estate in New York City, and they're going to head to Florida or South Carolina or someplace else. He should understand that. He should understand that his ideas are pretty bold, even for a progressive. But look, some people, and if you look at the demographics of the people who allowed him to win the Democrat primary last week, primarily young voters, young female voters. And I don't want to sound condescending here, but I think they just don't understand what they're about to get. It sounds good when he talks about all this free stuff and having the government run the grocery store so that you have free food. But these young people, they don't quite understand life yet. They don't quite understand that eventually somebody's going to pay for it. And if you push out enough people to where you don't have some of those millionaires and billionaires, everything's going to fall apart. You're going to end up eliminating the very tax base that you're trying to build. It's going to be interesting to watch, because I'm pulling for him at the expense of New York City. If he were to win, I think he helps us win the midterms next year. Joining us on our guest line from Greenwood, Representative John McCravy. Always a pleasure. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Joey. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. Appreciate your time. Look, there's a lot to talk about, and it's been a while since we've caught up. and I want to cover a lot of the important issues because there's a lot. But let's briefly talk about party politics, if you will. I'm still receiving some of these text messages. Let me read the latest one that circulated last week. South Carolina Ethics Commission records show thousands flowing to an accused pedophile from Representative Mike Burns' Freedom Caucus group. Members of Representative Burns' group were still sending money after the accused predator's home was raided. Now, of course, they're talking about Representative R.J. May, who was arrested. But, you know, this is attacking some of our own. And obviously what the allegations against Representative May are very disturbing. But Representative Burns and other members of the Freedom Caucus, or any caucus for that matter, you can't be responsible for other members of the South Carolina House and their actions, can you?
Joey, you're absolutely right. I mean, R.J. May is a sad situation, a tragic situation, and it's something that we all must condemn, or whatever you want to say. And I think everybody has. But, you know, R.J. May was a member of the Republican caucus. He was a member of the Freedom Caucus. He was a citizen of South Carolina. That doesn't mean all citizens in South Carolina are pedophiles. It doesn't mean that because you served in the legislature, you're a pedophile. These political attacks that are going out, my friend Mike Burns is one of the most strong Christian, absolute good men that there are in our state. He's an example of that. He's a mentor to me.
Yeah.
You know, when I went down there, he was just absolutely a good man. So, I mean, attacking somebody like that with this kind of stuff, I mean, it's beyond the pale. And, you know, unfortunately, it's inside politics that is doing this. It's one caucus against another caucus, and that's what's going on.
Yeah.
And I just hate it. I hate that they've empowered these PACs on both sides to go after good legislators who have nothing to do with this kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's sad. And it's really sad that politics has gotten this low in our state. I've never seen anything like it.
So South Carolina Growth and Freedom Alliance, who this text message was paid for, where's their money coming from?
Well, you know, these shady PACs are not required to divulge where they get their money from, but we know that this PAC has almost exclusively attacked the Freedom Caucus, and it's been, you know, it's been organized to do specifically that. So, you know, they attacked me when some people got mad at me. I spoke against the casinos down there. I was the only one that spoke up against the casino bill in the committee. I stood strong for life when the Republican caucus did not want to, as far as our Human Life Protection Act. And right after that, I got hit from this same group, and they put out a hit in Greenwood saying McCravy is not conservative.
Wow.
Well, everybody in Greenwood kind of laughed about that because they know I'm one of the most conservative people they've ever seen.
Yeah.
So I may be too conservative on things, but I've never been accused of not being conservative. So it's the same group, and they're attacking their own.
Wow.
Know? And so I don't know what to say about it except politics has stooped very low in our state.
Yeah. Well, there's too many important issues, I believe, than to get bogged down with this, and for us to have this inter-party fighting like this. Look, I hope that we can get beyond this. So let's get to the important issues here. There have been several U.S. Supreme Court decisions recently that have a direct impact on South Carolina. So where shall we start? I mean, again, some important ones here. Maybe with the decision last week, Medina versus Planned Parenthood. I talked quite a bit about that last week. Give us a quick summary of the recent decisions that directly affect us.
We've had Joey 4 recent decisions from our U.S. Supreme Court, our conservative majority, and they're all 6-3. They're all 6-3 decisions with the 6 conservatives against the 3 liberals. And what we've had is the Medina case that you very ably talked about last week, that allows us to defund Planned Parenthood. We've got the Skirmity case that John Roberts wrote, and that case upheld the Tennessee law that's very similar to our Help Not Harm law that bans puberty blockers, hormones, and surgery on minors. We had the Free Speech Coalition versus Paxton case written by Clarence Thomas that upheld the Texas law for strict age verification on porn sites. So, and then we've really got an interesting case, Mahmoud versus Taylor, we need to all look at, and that allows parents to opt out of classes, and it requires education to public education to allow alternatives for students whenever they have these LGBTQ inclusive books or references to those in their course materials. This is going to affect South Carolina too.
Yeah. With me today, Representative John McCravy. So let's go back and let's start with the Medina case. I did talk about it last week, but give us a breakdown on this and why it's important to us.
Well, just as a short history, Governor McMaster issued an executive order in 2018, which is the same time that I was in the legislature and the Family Caucus was fighting to defund Planned Parenthood as well through the legislature.
Yeah.
But our governor issued that executive order. That thing was appealed and hung around in the lower courts for years and years. It finally made its way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they did the right thing. They said that Planned Parenthood had no standing to challenge this, that it's not a civil right to be able to get Medicaid funds.
Yeah.
That's something that the government has to decide, and the only remedy would be by federal enforcement. So when we defunded them, we have the right to do that in South Carolina. Now, whether or not the federal government steps in, the administration steps in, is a different story. But I don't think this administration will, and certainly we look for other states. This is going to be significant because we're going to see other states do the same thing. We've given them a playbook now, and these other red states will surely follow suit with their own executive orders to defund Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
And I think also it will enable us to defund other organizations that primarily get their funds from abortion too.
Yeah.
So those other organizations, like the one in Greenville, we look to defund them as well.
Yeah. And look, we can all say thank you, President Donald Trump, for all of these decisions because,
Yes.
as you said, all of these cases, it was a 6-3 vote, and that's because Donald Trump, in his first term, appointed some very conservative judges.
And it's interesting that each one of these cases was written by a different conservative justice. They're passing them out so they can all take the heat. That's kind of interesting to me.
Yeah. The case, and with me, Representative John McCravy, the case you talked about as far as, I'm going to call it parental rights, and allowing parents to be able to take their kids out of class. What's the response from school districts, and are we going to see pushback from them, do you think?
Well, this has just come out, so I think we will see adjustments in our states by our state Department of Education. I think we're going to have to see local adjustments, and when parents come out and they draw attention to what's being taught our kids. You know, we had an instance in Greenwood where one of our textbooks that was approved by the state for the 7th grade had LGBTQ praise in it.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got. I think this is going to affect our curriculum committee in the state. I think Ellen Weaver is going to be able to use this to get rid of this stuff and get it out of our curriculum. And if it's in our curriculum, our parents will have the right to object to it, and they'll have the right to have their children not be exposed to this mess.
Yeah.
So I think it's important, and it's going to empower parents. You know, we tried to pass laws in the House before, and we passed them in the House, and they died in the Senate. But we tried to strengthen parental rights, and we need to do that in South Carolina. You know, we don't have enough transparency when it comes to but we've got to do that.
Yep.
And I'm all in favor of it. So this case will strengthen the parents' hands.
Yeah. Well, and it certainly, again, it's been a good start of the summer as the Supreme Court is wrapping up this session and some very key decisions, as you said, that will affect South Carolina. Representative John McCravy, it's always a pleasure to have you on, and appreciate all that you do for South Carolina.
Well, thank you, Joey, and it's always a pleasure and an honor to be on with you.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.